Education Association in San Francisco. He is expected to spend most of his speech talking about jobs and trade as he heads for the summit of 7 industrialized countries in Tokyo. KGO Radio's Mary Ellen Geist is standing by at Moscone Center.
Inside San Francisco's Moscone Center, it's a party atmosphere. Thousands of members of the National Education Association playing music, gearing up for the finale of their conference when President Clinton will speak to the crowd. But outside, ACT UP San Francisco, a gay rights group, is threatening a protest to express anger over the Clinton administration's policy on gays in the military and federal funding for treatment of AIDS. Security is very tight here. ACT UP San Francisco says it will disrupt Clinton's speech on foreign policy. It says it will hold Clinton accountable for promises to the gay community he hasn't kept. Mary Ellen Geist, ABC News, San Francisco.
The president started his day jogging along San Francisco Bay, beginning and ending at the St. Francis Yacht Club. Pope John Paul, during his 4-day visit next month to Denver, will confer with the president. The Vatican says it'll be a courtesy visit at Regis University, first meeting between the two leaders. Paul Brocker of the university says,
our president, Father Michael Sheeran, is ecstatic at the news that the Pope and President Clinton will be meeting, and will be meeting here at Regis. We know that the world will be watching, and we look forward to a very successful meeting.
The chief reason for the Pope's foreign trip is to take part in a gathering of young people for the Roman Catholic Church's celebration of World Youth Day. Forecasters say the Mississippi River has apparently crested at Davenport, Iowa at 22 feet, same figure as yesterday morning. Several locations upstream report the river has begun falling. The Army Corps of Engineers says, though, it's a mistake to think the worst is over from the high water, because more rain could further aggravate the situation. At the movies, the top box office draw is The Firm, which sold $26 million worth of tickets last weekend. Jurassic Park second. You're listening to ABC News.
Some of the best things about Motel 6 are what you won't find there. Hi, Tom Bodette with an explanation. Well, it seems like everybody's selling stuff these days based on what's not in it. You know what I mean. Caffeine-free this, cholesterol-free that. I never even knew what monosodium glutamate was until somebody said they weren't using it anymore. Well, if you can sell stuff you eat based on what's not in it, why not sell a motel that way? Well, at Motel 6, you don't get a lot of extra stuff you don't need. No, just a clean, comfortable room and a good night's sleep for the lowest prices of any national chain. And you won't find all these funny little extra charges for phone calls. No, local calls are free, and there's no motel service charge for long-distance ones. In other words, none of that stuff to make your blood pressure go up. Why, it's even okay to operate heavy machinery afterwards, if you got any. Well, I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
A convoy on its way to Srebrenica is being detained. Ron Redmond of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees says Bosnian Serb militia are demanding $350 a truck in return for safe passage.
We've got a 9-truck convoy held up on the border of Bosnia and Serbia by Bosnian Serb militiamen who, despite earlier assurances, are trying again to impose a toll on humanitarian convoys.
Redmond says not much food will be in the so-called pipeline on its way to Yugoslavia until mid-September. Medical researchers in St. Louis conclude a blood test done in conjunction with a rectal exam to detect prostate cancer drastically cuts the likelihood of finding malignancies while they're still curable. ABC's John Bascom with more.
Research on nearly 6,400 men over the age of 50 found that when a blood test known as a PSA is used in conjunction with a rectal exam, the number of curable colon cancers that were detected nearly doubled. Lead researcher Dr. William Catalona with Washington University also found that the cancers that were detected by the blood test were overwhelmingly serious, as opposed to the smaller, insignificant tumors that don't require medical attention. The findings seem to confirm the wisdom of what doctors have been preaching, that men over 50 ought to get the blood test annually. It costs about $60.
You're listening to ABC News.
Denny's asked America how they like our new prime rib dinner.
Now this is prime rib. Thick, tender, brown and roasted on the outside.
Lean and juicy inside.
Baked potatoes, Caesar salad.
They give you the works.
It's a fancy meal.
Without the fancy price.
America, there's a prime rib dinner done just the way you like, only $6.99 and only at Denny's.
Denny's. Who would have thought?
Available 4 to 10 p.m. for a limited time. Prices may vary, only at participating Denny's.
For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary Nunn.
Is your car or truck getting the oil protection it needs? Be sure. Switch to Phillips 66 Trop Arctic Premium Quality All-Season Motor Oil in the Classic Gold bottle. Phillips 66 Trop Arctic Motor Oil meet or exceed new car makers' warranty requirements. Phillips 66 Trop Arctic Motor Oils are a blend of high-quality base oils and selected additives that give you a premium quality all-season motor oil. Available at a Phillips 66 station near you. Phillips 66 products, distributed by Griffin Oil Company, 511 South John Street, Goldsboro.
You'll find first of the month special savings on books at Wayne Bible and Bookstore. From now through July 10th, it's 2 big tables of books. Prices have been drastically reduced, and that means great savings for you. Children's books and most any other type of books you can think of at tremendous savings. When you see the titles, you'll be happy with the savings on the books on these 2 tables. Wayne Bible and Bookstore, 124 East Mulberry Street, downtown Goldsboro. Lonza Daniel says, when you're looking for appliances, Gibson is known for quality and one of the best warranties in the industry. Gibson ranges, washers, dryers, freezers, and refrigerators. Check the prices before you buy at Daniel's Furniture and Appliance, 112 North John Street, downtown Goldsboro.
We're the talk of the town, 1150 WGBR. Hi, this is a reminder, my good friends, you're listening to tape. I know it sounds like the real thing because it's so hot, but it's a tape of previous programs, great shows that you wanted to hear again. A pleasant greetings to you, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. It is time for yet another excursion into broadcast excellence. So let's go and get started. This is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program, America Held Hostage. And now, from our studios in New York City, here is Rush Limbaugh. Well, we're up to day 150 of the raw deal, with 1,311 days left to go. And while those are depressing figures,
Live from New York, it's Open Line Friday!
it is, after all, the Friday of the weekend, and we try to get in a good spirit. We are in a good frame of mind throughout the broadcast week, but Fridays we even kick it up a notch, as we are here in good cheer and with a smile. Hope you are feeling the same. If you're not, stick with us, and maybe you will be. Our telephone number, if you want to be on the program today, 800-282-2882. I do want to follow through on that, which I said we're going to do yesterday. And we're going to need, obviously, your cooperation, ladies and gentlemen, for this to work. Here's what we want to do. I want to, at least to start the program, I don't know how long we're going to go with it, but we'll go as long as it as I judge it to be interesting and enlightening, fun, entertaining, and all of the ingredients necessary to satisfy the expectations that you, the largest audience for a radio talk show in the history of civilization, including the dinosaur era, deserves and have created. So, here's the deal. The Los Angeles Times the other day came out with this survey, and one of the questions was, is the American dream still possible? Can you still reach the American dream? And I have made no bones about the fact that I think it's an idiotic question, because the American dream is still possible. The problem is those who think it's not. Those are the people to whom we must speak. Those are the people that we got to somehow turn around and correct. Why are there people who think the American dream is not possible? Well, there are a lot of reasons.
general depression. You live in a funk. Others of you have been taught that the American dream never was. Some of you have been taught that it did exist, but it doesn't anymore, that you cannot access it no matter what you do. That only the rich, or that only the charmed, only the special, only the privileged have an opportunity to experience the American dream. I think what we need first to do is to define the American dream. As I told you yesterday, I'm fascinated, and you ought to do this if you're going anywhere tonight with some friends or with some people. Invariably in a conversation, somebody will say, yeah, that person's really doing well. And you ought to say, wait a minute, what define that for me? I'm just here, what is really doing well? What is a lot of money to you? What is success to you? And how integral and crucial are money and success to happiness to you? You get some of the most intriguing answers when you ask people that question, or those questions. I've been fascinated by it. You should try it. We ought to do a version of that on this program. Now, we're not going to first start off by asking everybody to call in only with their definition of the American dream, but those of you who do call, we want to ask you what your definition of it is before you tell us whether or not you think it's possible. I want you to be honest, and I want to hear from people who think it's not. I think that it's very likely we're going to hear from a lot of people who think it is. Why live otherwise? Ambition, optimism, hope, desire, all of these things exist for one reason, and that is because there is a reason for it, and the reason is the American dream or some, derivative of that. But those of you who don't think it's possible, it's not that I'm not interested in those of you who think it is, because I think people need to hear why you think it is. I think I've always, when people, and it happens a lot, people say, what do I need to do to get into radio? Or what do I need to do to become a success? And there's one real basic, simple thing. You need to hang around people who have succeeded at what you want to do. Or you need to hang around people who are genuinely happy with what they do. It's too easy to find people angry, bitter, mad at the world, and have blamed everybody else for what's wrong with their situation. And it's easier to be negative. It's easier to fall prey to negativism, and because it's a rationalization, it's a way out. Much more difficult to remain positive and optimistic because it means you got to do it yourself. You're going to generally have to take control of things yourself and make them happen. Seldom do things happen if you're just sitting around waiting, hoping, waiting for your turn or what have you. So those who think the American dream is possible, you will be today great teachers. To those who think it isn't, and those who think it isn't, we'd like to try to convince you. As well as hearing from people who think the American dream is or is not possible, it would be ideal if many calls today were 24 years old and younger. Now, we're not going to say only 24 and younger, but to those of you who are, is that what you got? Is that what you're saying? You just blew off some 27-year-olds, huh? Well, you blew off a 28-year-old. I'm sorry. We have had a breakdown in communication, probably my fault, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Snerdley claims to remember verbatim what I said yesterday in setting up the program. Note how I am forgiving. Note how I'm willing to take the heat if I'm wrong. Note how I am willing to admit it. Am I? Did I say we'll only talk to people? That's it. 25 and younger for the whole show? Did I say it for the whole show? All right. I said it. Well, it's my show. I can change my mind today at some point. Now we're not going to change it. If that's what I said, then we'll start it. We'll start it that way. 25 and younger to start. And as the program goes along, then we'll expand the demographic category. We'll do it that way. The reason, I know a lot of you who are baby boomers and middle-aged, and those of you in the audience who are seasoned citizens, you're probably saying, why do you want to talk to young people? Why only that to me? It's not that. But from what I've gathered, I've watched some television shows lately where they've gone out and gotten some 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and these people are mad. The ones they find for these TV shows, they think you and I and our parents and grandparents have left them a mess because of our own selfishness and greed, and that we are mortgaging their future. They believe all of the phraseology that has been used by the deficit cutters, the monsters, the frighten mongers out there who are trying to really create all this attitude of chaos, fear, panic, and crisis. So I'm interested to hear from people 25 and under, recent college graduates, people who are in college and getting ready to go to college. And it is summertime, so we ought to have a fairly decent opportunity here to hear from some high school students as well. Just what you think your chances are in the future, what your obstacles are, what you're going to have to overcome, and how you plan on doing it. So those of you who don't particularly care to talk about the American dream, please leave the lines open today and don't call, so those who do wish to talk about the American dream can indeed do so. Now, I hope you're also noticing that we've now had about 10 minutes of this show underway and have yet to mention last night's big event, the President's press conference. Now, it's a big event from the standpoint of commentary and analysis. Absolutely, commentary and analysis, because one of the things I predict has already begun to happen. Have you read the press accounts of the press conference today? He was bubbly, he was effervescent, he was in a good mood. They're bringing him back. He said some of the most outrageous things again last night that we'll take up during the course of the program today, but there was what's the question, Mr. Snerlo? Okay, it was half the networks didn't carry it. More than half the networks. NBC and CNN didn't carry it, or did carry it. Those two did carry it, so that's 1.5 networks. 1.5 networks. People wonder which one he means. You're right. Wasn't a big event. And as such, we're not leading the program off with it. This should show you, my friends, this is an event-driven show. There are some things, however, that I do wish to say about it. This warlord thing is even more ridiculous today. Now, last night, did you see they actually got footage of this guy's compound? It's a shack, just as I thought. It's an absolute shack. They showed the guy's bed. It's got a bedspread on there that was made at Woolworths and purchased in 1908. And the guy fled just in the nick of time, was the story. And today they're announcing this is a big success. The Somali, it's a big success. Look, don't misunderstand. I don't deny that this guy's a bad guy. He's a meanie. But I think that we have worse guys in the United States that we're not pursuing with 1/2 the vigor. not 25% of the vigor that we have sent the troops out to get this warlord. So, anyway, let's take a break here, and we will come back and get started with phones and your thoughts on the American dream right after this.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Even though this is a Limbaugh letter newsletter commercial, I want to talk to you about the art of persuasion. Don't you find it frustrating to tell people the truth about the 80s, the truth about Reaganomics, and the truth about conservatism and have them still not get it? Well, one of the ways to persuade people that I've always found, ladies and gentlemen, is to enable people to draw their own conclusion, to come to the right conclusion themselves, rather than just sit there and point fingers in their face and say, this is true, this is true, this is true. They're just going to rebel. But you give them a way that they can convince themselves, and you've persuaded them. And after all, isn't that the goal? Well, that's what we're going to do in the next issue of the Limbaugh letter. We got a pop quiz. This is a brilliant quiz. It's got all the truth, all the answers for the truth about the 80s and Reaganomics and conservatism. You show this to any liberal, and they'll be persuaded. It's free with a subscription to the Limbaugh letter. Call 800-457-4141. 12 issues, $29.95. 800-457-4141. Let's get going and do it.
Sid Cherise.
I developed Arctic Spray with a pharmacist to relieve my mother's terrible arthritis pains. It worked. Then I tried it on my sore muscles, and I've used it during my Hollywood and Broadway dancing career ever since. And my friends started spraying it on their aches, pains, tendonitis, cramps, arthritis, you name it. It works.
Spray the pain away with Arctic Spray.
Just how much busier could you possibly be during the summer? Well, not counting all the projects you have left over from last summer. You've got a list of backyard jobs, mowing the lawn, a round of golf, baseball practice, baseball games, frog hunting, tennis with your sister-in-law, the one who beat you every time you played her last summer, the same one who keeps bugging you to teach her how to play golf, but you flatly refuse. Never, you say, never. I'm sorry, that's my sister-in-law. Well, whatever you have planned for the summer, give yourself a break with Pizza Hut Pizza. That way you won't have to waste your precious and limited supply of summer days preparing every lunch or dinner, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the grill, slicing tomatoes, dicing onions, cleaning the grill again. And you'll have more time for the things summers were made for. Golf, water skiing, baseball, basketball, lawn care, fishing, frog hunting, my personal favorite, biking, boating, swimming, camping. And you can bring your family and friends to the cool, air-conditioned comfort of a Pizza Hut dining room. Or pick up a pizza and take it home to the gang.
Pizza Hut! Making it great!
Making it great all summer long and designed to accommodate virtually every one of your favorite summer activities.
Knowles Carpet has been serving Goldsboro and Wayne County for over 45 years with quality installation of carpet and floor covering. Family dedication to this business has been enjoyed by thousands of customers. Joining Carpet One 5 years ago gave Knowles Carpet the additional buying power of 450 other stores to bring you the best prices available. Put it all together and it means quality floor covering and expert installation by a truly family dedicated business. Knowles Carpet, your Carpet One store, 2311 Wayne Memorial Drive, Goldsboro.
My favorite activity is probably cheerleading. I love to cheer.
Shriners help kids. Kids like Beth Cole. Thanks to Shriners Hospitals for Crippled Children, Beth participates in high school sports with the aid of 2 artificial feet. Shriners help thousands of kids under 18 like Beth with big and small problems. The care is some of the finest in the world, and there's never a charge. For more information, call Shriners Hospitals, 1-800-237-5055.
Now, more broadcast excellence on 11:20 WGBR.
What do we have? Game 5 tonight, the NBA Finals. You wouldn't believe the number of people I'm talking to who think Phoenix is going to win tonight. Think it's going to go to Game 6. Everybody thinks that. If it does, then I am jetting to Phoenix on Saturday night for Game 6. So I hope it goes to 6. I want to go back to Phoenix. Great town. They got a new restroom out there, by the way. Max's in Glendale. So now we have 6 rush rooms in Phoenix alone. And a rush room opening in Salt Lake City, Joe Morley's, which is actually in Midvale. I'm online on CompuServe. I am sitting here, ladies and gentlemen. I have just this morning taken delivery of my new PowerBook 180C. This is the active color matrix screen, active matrix color screen that just came out. I have in this 8 megabytes of RAM, which I was told earlier this week is impossible, but there it is. And my guys said you can't put more than 4 in there, so I got 8 in there. And I've got 160 megabyte hard drive. So I'm on CompuServe right now. I'm online. I got a great letter here. Just let me read this. This is funny. Rush, it strikes me that the election of Bill Clinton is very much like the Pepsi hoax that's now being exposed. Which we haven't talked much about that, but remind me, because there are a whole lot of points to be made. Early in the primary, someone must have told somebody else that he was going to vote for Clinton. The second person thought he might get away with voting for Clinton, so he told somebody else. And pretty soon the press was reporting the whole thing. More and more people thought they could vote for Clinton and get away with it. And the press kept feeding the notion. Before you know it, Clinton gets elected. If we could just prosecute these people, as the government is doing with the Pepsi hoax, we might prevent this from happening again. A bit of a stretch, but still I like the analogy. Let us start now in Jacksonville, Florida. Devin says 23 years old. Welcome to our program.
Mega Steeler Dittos from Jacksonville, Florida, Rush.
I'm glad to hear from you, sir. Thanks for calling.
I have been in contact with a lot of my friends who have fell into this notion that the American dream isn't possible. And I just refuse to accept it. For me, for one thing, the American dream isn't necessarily about money. It's about happiness and contentment.
Tell me what it is. Let's get your definition. I know this is going to be tough if you haven't thought about it much in advance, but let me just say this. There are a lot of people who think the American dream can be defined by the acquisition of a certain number or amount of material things. And I think that's understandable in part. Some of them, though, have very great expectations, and they think it's all going to happen very, very soon in their lives. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because there are many brilliant points to make about this. What is your definition of the American dream?
The American dream, as I've always understood it, and as a student of history, is that you have the maximum opportunity to do the best you can at whatever it is you find important. If you have decided that making money, for example, is going to be important for you, in America, there are as few restrictions as possible placed on you and as much opportunity as possible given to you. Now, if you don't have the ability, you're not going to succeed. But the fact is that that opportunity is there for you where it's not in other countries. For me, myself, I would like to reach a level of financial ability and stability where when I start my family, I can support my family, my children through college. I can support my wife so that she doesn't have to work and she can stay home and raise the kids. I want to be able to live a comfortable life, but that doesn't require 3 cars, 2 VCRs, a Super Nintendo, and multiple things that just don't have anything to do with making people really happy.
Well, how much money are you going to need now if you want to be able to afford a college education for however many kids you want to have, and you want your wife to be able to raise them at home without having the economic pressures of needing to work? Give me an idea of what you think at age 23 you're going to have to earn and how you're going to go about getting it.
Well, in today's dollars, I think with 1 or 2 kids, a family could make that successful with around $30,000 a year. I've seen it happen. I know people who are doing that now. These people are, the people that I've grown up with and the people I've grown up around. They don't buy their kids a new pair of Nikes every other month. They don't concentrate on making their children happy by giving them things. If the children want those things, there's a certain amount that the parents will help them, and then the rest they can raise themselves with odd jobs when the children are old enough.
All right, so what are you going to do to earn $30,000 a year, and how soon do you want to make that much?
Well, right now I'm working for an insurance company, Prudential, and I've been looking at the company's salary rates and all, and I have been able to figure that if I can average a promotion a year for the next 5 years, and then a promotion every other year for the next 6 years after that, that by my 32nd birthday I'll be making $30,000 a year.
And you sound pretty optimistic.
I am.
And you think this is you think the future is such that the possibility is pretty good that you will get to that level.
Well, we survived Carter. We can survive Clinton. And he's not going to do the kind of permanent long-term damage that's going to make that impossible.
Now, I'll tell you, he's not going to make it impossible.
He is going to make it harder.
He's going to make it. It is going to be a lot harder if this capital gains thing holds up. People don't know. You really don't know what that's going to do to the employment situation and overall growth of the economy, because it goes right straight to the secret to the expansion of the U.S. economy, and that's capital formation.
You have to be actively going out and actively want to make that amount of money in order for that to not discourage you. I mean, if someone...
Well, what is a lot of money to you? Let me get to this question. Is $30,000 is sufficient for you? But if somebody said, somebody told you, man, Fred, let's say you got a friend named Fred. Fred is really doing well. What would you think that is? Or what would you define as, man, he's rolling in it. He's really doing well.
Well, I mean, that's gonna be different for different people. My
estimation
would be, my estimation, if he's about my age, really doing well, would be in that $30,000 to $40,000 range. Now that's not rich. I would consider rich an actual millionaire, not Bill Clinton's $250,000 millionaire surtax.
Right.
But I would consider someone making $1 million to be rich. Now that doesn't mean that they don't have to still stick to budgets. I mean,
you know what percentage of American families earn more than $50,000 a year?
It's a very low percentage, but I don't remember the number.
It was, at the end of the Reagan administration, 10%. When Reagan took office in 1981, the percentage of American families making over $50,000 a year was 8%. When Reagan left office, the percentage of American families earning over $50,000 had moved up to 10%. I don't know what's happened. I'll bet you with the recession and stuff, and the departure from Reaganomics, that 10% may have shrunk some. Another way of looking at this, folks, is if you make less than $50,000 a year, your family income, that's your wife and you or your husband and you together, you are in company with 90% of American families. And the 10% who earns over 50 pays 78% of all taxes. And we will take a break and be back after this. Hi, Rush Limbaugh here. You know, a major university recently surveyed over 600 employers as to why job applicants do not get hired. Number one reason, poor communication skills. People do judge us by the words we use, and Verbal Advantage, a complete audio cassette vocabulary program, will give you the word power you need to communicate with authority and flair. To learn more, call now, 1-800-28-TAPES. That's 800-28-TAPES.
Hi there, this is Dr. Harvey Rubin inviting you to join me each weeknight from 10 to 1 here on 1150 WGBR. We talk about you, your emotions, your desires, your fears, your relationships with family, friends, and coworkers. Trouble studying? Can't sleep at night? Give me a call at 1-800-743-8000. The doctor's in every weeknight from 10 till 1. I hope you'll join me here on the Talk of the Town, 1150 WGBR.
From the mountains to the coast, the North Carolina News Network blankets the state to keep you informed. Our seasoned veteran reporters at Network Central, with reporters at affiliated radio stations across North Carolina, work hand in hand to keep you informed on topics ranging from snow in the mountains to hurricanes along the coast, guns and violence in the schools to peaceful protests in the streets. We cover it all right here on the North Carolina News Network.
Here at Goldsboro's very own 1150 WGBR, we love to make you a winner in many different ways. However, in order for us to reward as many listeners as possible, we ask that you assist us in a few simple ways. Please, no repeat winners within 30 days, only one winner per household every 30 days, and all prizes must be picked up within 2 weeks. Other stipulations may apply on certain contests. We invite you to keep listening for your chance to win on Goldsboro's very own 1150 WGBR, and good luck.
Sometimes you read the news and you just want to laugh. You can't make this stuff up, and I don't have to. Hi, this is Rush Limbaugh. Join me weekdays as we go through the latest news coming out of Comedy Central in Washington, D.C. It's so funny, it's scary. But we'll make it palatable for you, my friends. The Rush Limbaugh program right here on the EIB network. Join me weekdays at noon on 1150 WGBR.
We all have our share of life's little problems. It could be a problem with a friend or a family member, or maybe even one related to your career. I'm Lee Maribal, and each weekday from 10 till noon, I take calls from listeners that have questions or problems, probably similar to those you've had. I try to give advice to help you solve those problems, or at least help you take the first step. I hope you'll join me each weekday morning on Goldsboro's very own 1150 WGBR.
This is Larry King inviting you to join me each weekday afternoon on The Talk of the Town. Between 3 and 6, we cover a wide variety of topics ranging from important political issues to the world of entertainment. Each day we cover it with all our special guests, and of course you're invited to join in the discussions and debates and whatever. Plus there's always Open Phone Americas. Join me for The Larry King Show weekdays at 3 on The Talk of the Town, 1150 WGBR.
Guiding light through times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, and despair. Rush Limbaugh, inspirational, positive, and fun. Here on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Now, folks, look, I know that I could comment on every call, everything somebody says. You would not believe what happened in there in the last call in the control room when the gentleman from Jacksonville said 30 grand was his goal. The people in this control room who live in New York, like Lobie Uncle, 30 grand, I would never be able to go to Patsy's. But look at the difference. Here's a guy living in Jacksonville, Florida. This is what I want you to hear, folks. I want you to hear real people. Here's a man, 23 years old in Jacksonville, Florida, who thinks that he's going to be able to put his kids through school, have his wife not work, and have a nice life at $30,000 a year. Now, why does he think that? He thinks that because he doesn't earn it now. Let me tell you a little story of my own. When I worked at the Kansas City Royals, and I tell you this blatantly, openly, and honestly, but I do not want anybody to misunderstand. This is not any criticism of anybody or any place. I used to, when I worked there, criticize them, but I learned that it was my problem, the situation I was in, not theirs. They had a job, this is what it was worth to them, and I take it or leave it on that basis. Now, at age 28, when I started with the Kansas City Royals, I began making $12,000 a year. The least amount of money I had made as an adult in my life. And I was able to buy a house. Yep. Now, at the time I was married, and my wife was earning the same amount. So we, with our combined income, were able to buy a house. It wasn't much of one. It was a shack. I've told you about this place before. I'm embarrassed. I hope nobody ever finds out where it is. It'll be pictured in books and magazines and all. And I hope nobody ever. But nevertheless, it was his house. Got divorced. There goes half the income. I held on to that house. I shouldn't have. I went broke doing it. But it wasn't repoed. They didn't foreclose on me. I'm sitting there and I'm making 12. And then the next year I get $1,000 a year raise every year. Is the way it worked out. So after 5 years, I got more than that because I was up to 18 or 19 when I left there in 1983, which is 10 years ago, making 18 grand. Now, when I left there, I went from there to a radio station, and I went from 18 to 25. That was such a big increase in terms of percentage. When you live, when you get yourself accustomed to living on any amount, in my case, $18,000, you can do whatever you can do on $18,000. You have your credit cards, you can manage a certain amount of debt or whatever. Then, let's say somebody comes along and your paycheck goes up by $200 a week. It may not be a lot of money by itself, but compared to what it makes, or when you add it to what you're already earning, there's 200 additional disposable dollars every week that you didn't have. The percentage increase, I was able to buy a second car. Able to buy a second car. I thought it was in Fat City coming around. So I can see where somebody sitting somewhere now looks at $30,000 and sees a lot of money. Now, as he gets closer to 30 and lives at 30, that's going to change. 30 is not going to be enough. 50 is going to be I want to give you, well, I don't want to give you the advice yet because we've only talked to one caller, but this is what I mean. You're going to be fascinated when you hear what people think is a lot of money. $30,000 in New York, that's about what you get on welfare here. If you lose your job, you can pretty much manage getting I got $24,000 if you figure out all that you can do at every city agency, federal agency, or what have you. We return to the phones now. Who do we go to next? Seattle, Washington. Keith, thank you for waiting. Welcome to the program.
Hey, no problem. Rush, Beatles from Seattle.
Yes.
Hey, the American way or the American dream is there. All it takes is some gumption. When I was
why do you think people, so many people, or I don't know how many it really is, why do you think there are some who think that it doesn't exist?
Because they're pathetic and they want the government or whomever to do what they should be doing. When I graduated at University of Washington, I was a history major. I had 5 part-time jobs.
How old are you now?
I'm 25.
25.
And 20 credits and a girlfriend. Now I run a company, I'm starting my own company, and I sell insurance. And I'm making roughly about 60 to 65. I say the American dream is doing better than your parents, but I want to do a lot better. I just started selling.
Hold on. That's an interesting definition of the American dream, is doing better than your parents, because your parents, that's what they want for their kids.
Right.
In normal circumstances, there's some parents who hate their kids, and I can understand why. But there are, snuck that in, but there are most parents, there's this bond of love. It's a natural, it's almost like it's in the genes that parents sacrifice and do whatever they can to see to it their kids have a better life than they do. And if that continues to happen, then that's not a bad definition of the American dream.
Well, see, I think, like I said, the American dream is doing better than your parents, but it takes a lot of hard work. And I think the way the kids are raised today with Nintendo, not going out and playing sports, instead they'll stay inside, they're lazy. They don't feel like going out and working, pardon the expression, but balls out.
And you know something else. That's all right on this show today. We're talking to the youth of America. That's great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else. When you say that the kids are not playing sports or doing all this, there's something else that then is causing to happen, and that is they're not experiencing competition.
You're right. And I'll tell you, I'm a lieutenant in the Army also, in the reserves, and what instills competition in young kids is the sports and, pardon the whatever input, but the Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout also.
Yeah.
And that instills competition, because when you go to camp, you're always competing against other people to do better. And it's
not if it's a liberal camp.
No,
and that's the truth. I mean, if it's a liberal camp, then everybody's going to whether be mediocre, so that you don't embarrass anybody.
Unless you have your big brother who's there with you.
Yeah.
And then you got to do better.
I went down to the National Rifle Association convention in April, and I made a speech down there. And in the little adult beverage party prior to the speech, I met Bob Chandler, former wide receiver for the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders. And he and I got to talking. He's a big fan of this show. And he and I got to talking, and there's something that I don't know how many people in America experience this, probably more than I think, because you have so many clubs, leagues, and organizations. You've got the pig iron convention, you got bowling leagues, you have summer softball leagues, people get out and do things and have teams. But he and I got to talking about, he went to the Super Bowl. You realize how many human beings, how many Americans will never play in the Super Bowl versus those who will. Then the number of those who play in it that win is halved on average. Yet it is such a rewarding experience. One of the things that I've always thought separates boys and girls from each other is sports, team sports. It is something that boys are thrown in from the moment they're very young. And it's not because of sexism or bigotry or any of that. But there's nothing like being part of a team that wins it all. In whatever, whether you're bowling league or it's your summer softball league or the Super Bowl or what have you. And Chandler and I were talking about how few people really understand what that feels like. How few people really, really win as a team, and the camaraderie that goes along with that, and the euphoria that goes along with it. And this is what I was trying to talk about Monday when I told you about the conversation I'd had with Danny Ainge flying into Chicago Saturday morning last weekend from Phoenix. And he was talking about the difference between playing well, showing up and having a good time, and playing to win. Attitudinally. He gave me this in answer to a question. I said, why do you guys think you're down 0-2? He says, well, we got some young guys on our team. And there's a big difference in, he wasn't being critical, he says there's a big difference in playing to have a good time, playing well, and playing to win. And there's so little of this camaraderie that I think is understood. We were talking about all this, and I think that this too, all of these experiences that you have with camaraderie between people and the team effort, the people who experience that, I think enjoy life a little bit more and have a little bit more of an insight about other people and about effort and achievement and all that than those who don't associate themselves in clubs, groups, and that kind of thing. I think the more people who got involved in that could experience it, there would be a lot more understanding about why people pursue victory and why it is something that people enjoy. And when you talk about now these young kids who don't want to do sports and who for some reason are playing the solitary computer games and video games and so forth, they're not being involved in competition, they're not competing, they're not losing, which is crucial. You got to lose to learn, and winning, it's all part of the same thing. And I just I think that when you have people unwilling to compete, or people without experience in competing, those are people generally who are dominated by fear. They're afraid. And those people, ones who are afraid, those are the ones, well, it's over. I don't have any chance. No, I can't do that. No, I don't want to do that. Da, 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 da. And if you end up electing those people, or if they end up in leadership positions, I'm not saying we have. I'm not even bringing that into this. So I'm saying we got a generation here, and this is what Keith in Seattle is saying. And so that's in trying to explain why some people think that the American dream is not possible. There are people who haven't won anything. You got to win if you're going to have the American dream. And winning, boy, sometimes it's a bad word in our society now. You've cheated. The refs gave you a favorable call. Maybe you you had more money to spend on your players than the other guy did. You realize in our society how often achievement now is denigrated? It's never rewarded for being the result of hard work and ambition and all that. Now it's the result of somebody getting screwed in most people. Keith, that's a great call. I'm glad to hear from you. We'll be back.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Here's news about a revolutionary product that's energizing America. It's called Ginsana.
Ginsana is the most unique herbal product in history. I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, medical doctor and nutritionist. If you get tired easily, if you've lost your competitive edge, you should know about Ginsana. Ginsana is the all-natural, energizing ginseng capsule. Ginsana is the first standardized ginseng extract, the only ginseng product clinically tested for 25 years. Who benefits from Ginsana? Middle-aged men and women, senior citizens, busy executives, college students, and athletes. It's often imitated, but there's only one Ginsana. All natural, no sugar, no caffeine. If you tire easily, if you've lost your competitive edge, try Ginsana and feel the energy.
Ginsana at Kmart, Rite Aid, Osco, Drug Emporium, GNC, Walgreens, People's CVS, Myers, Faze, Winn-Dixie, and natural food stores. For a free brochure, call 1-800-777-2000. That's 800-777-2000.
Just one taste is all it takes, and you'll love it all at McCall's Barbecue and Seafood.
Ooh, just one taste, and you'll know that we're the place.